Right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to start the second half. Hopefully you're all refreshed, ready to hear some amazing speakers, all talking about Provoke. Without further ado, I am going to welcome to the stage our first speaker of the second half. Now, I only met this lady 3 months ago, and she blew my mind. Really did. As soon as she entered the room, what she said, how she looked, just amazed me, captivated me, held my attention there. And hopefully she'll do the same for you and provoke you in ways you won't even believe are possible. Please welcome to the stage one of my favorite people, Melanie.
May I ask you a question? I know we've only known each other for about 10 seconds, but I'm not so much into small talk. I like to go straight to it. How many of you in this room have ever played with the idea of quitting your job and doing something that really matters to you? I have. This is me 3 years ago, working as an emergency care medical doctor in the University Hospital of Zurich, Switzerland, treating patients with heart attacks, pneumonia, strokes, investing all my energy to helping people in need, and going out with the ambulance to literally save other people's lives. I was what people call successful, hardworking, dedicated, with excellent career opportunities. So on the 15th of April 2014, I was offered that job I had always wanted. I was offered to be chief resident of the emergency care unit, thereby leading a team of 12 junior doctors. And that at the young age of 27 years, one of the youngest chief residents in Switzerland. Wow, what a prestige. My parents were super proud of me, my friends loved my crazy little medical stories, and I myself was like, yeah, good job. Everything looked so perfect from the outside. Yet sometimes at night, when I'd wander through the corridors, I'd ask myself if this was really it. If this was what I wanted to do with my life. Or there was more to it. Because deep inside, I felt unhappy. I felt like the rigid job description was pressing me into a little box with no space for movement, with no space for being who I was. I felt like I was a little cogwheel in a huge hospital machinery, 100% replaceable. I felt as if I was driving down the highway, full speed, with the foot on the accelerator, driving towards a destination I never even wanted to reach. Tonight, I'd like to share my story. My story of how I left behind my prestigious job as an emergency care medical doctor to embark on a journey towards finding more purpose. I've been on this journey for 2 years now, and I've learned 3 lessons so far, which I'd like to share with you. But before I start, I'd like to demystify the concept of life purpose. When we hear that word, we often think like some kind of cosmic mission that we're given to, and then we have to spend our lives trying to find out what that is. I don't believe in that. I think that we're on this earth for an uncertain amount of time. And we can either use that uncertain amount of time to do things that kind of bore us, that we don't really care about, or we can use that uncertain amount of time to do things that excite us, that make us want to get out of bed at morning, that kind of make our eyes glow. And that's what I call life purpose. So me, as a medical doctor, I felt like I wasn't using the uncertain amount of time I have on this earth to do something that matters to me. So exactly 1 year after having been promoted to my supposedly dream job, I took a leap of faith and resigned. And with that step, I learned the first lesson. I learned that if you really want change to happen, you have to take action so that something happens. Of course, there were 1,000 reasons not to do it. Most of all, fear. Fear of financial insecurity, fear of not knowing what to do with my life, fear of eventually regretting that step. And because of that fear, most of us just keep on doing what we're doing, and we hope that one day we'll come up with this epiphany of what we want to do with our lives. Wouldn't that be great? But it doesn't work like that. Because one of the most important things that you need to find out what matters to you in life is time. And in the everyday hassles, and even when you're in that hamster wheel, change just doesn't get the attention that it deserves. It remains a dream. So that was the first lesson that I learned. You have to take action to make change a priority. You have to leave safe harbor and go out into the sea where the winds of change blow. And how can you make change a priority? Well, maybe by reducing your workload, or by scheduling a weekly change date with yourself or with a friend or with a coach, or maybe by resigning. And this is what it looks like when you first break free from your job. It's all about beautiful sunsets, about colors. I went traveling. I moved to Argentina. I did all the things I had always wanted to do and I never had time. It was all about rainbows and fairy tales, and it was a good time. Yet, only 3 months after having quit my job, fog started to settle in. All the colors that were so bright and exciting slowly turned gray. I felt lost. I had no idea what I was going to do with my life and how on earth I was ever going to earn money again. It felt a bit like all that free time that just 3 months ago I had so happily embraced was now becoming my enemy, full of fear and doubt and uncertainty. And it took me quite some time to understand the second lesson. That being lost is actually an essential part of finding your purpose. Why? Because only if you allow yourself to be lost for quite some time, you allow yourself to explore all the possibilities. Imagine that being lost is a bit like being on a little boat in the middle of the sea, and finding your purpose is a bit like finding your dream island. Now, being alone in a boat in the middle of the sea is not very comfortable. So the temptation is very, very high, as soon as you see one island, you just jump right into security. You're like, yeah, I've got this. But that might mean that you never find your dream island. So dare to stay with it, with that feeling of being lost. It means that you're exploring all the possibilities. And in my case, that feeling lasted quite some time. Exactly 1 year after having resigned, it actually turned into an emotional thunderstorm, an earthquake. The earth beneath me was shaking, and I had no idea who I was, my values. I was questioning everything, even my long-term relationship. I was so desperate to finally find that island, which would give my life some purpose. And it was during that desperate time that the third message got to me through my best friend. He told me, Melanie, since you have no clue what you want to do with your life, why don't you call up people that you admire and let them inspire you? So I did. I called up people I hadn't talked to for about 10 years, and I said, hey, you know what? I find what you do is quite inspiring. Can I invite you for lunch? And you might be surprised that all of them accepted. And while I was talking to these doers, to these dreamers, to these change makers, I noticed that they too had gone through periods of uncertainty, of fear, and of being lost. I felt relief. And then then something magical happened. I started to identify why I admire him. I started to notice that I connect most to people who promote social justice, like political activists or social entrepreneurs. I also noticed that I connect a lot to people who help others potentiate their growth, to be their better selves, like coaches or teachers. And I noticed that while I was talking to these change makers who had already found their island of purpose and they were describing it, I started to figure out what my island might look like. So that was the third lesson that I learned so far. And it's also, by far, the most fun one. So where am I now? As I told you, I'm still on the journey. I haven't found my one dream job, my one dream island. But I found 3 of them. And today, I am talking to you as a coach, as a yoga teacher, and a social entrepreneur. As a coach, I help others to find more meaning in their lives. As a yoga teacher, I promote physical, mental, and spiritual growth. And as a social entrepreneur, I just recently founded a startup dedicated to making society a fairer place. And of course, I still have good days and bad days, and sometimes I wake up and I wonder, am I really on the right course? But what I've learned from this journey so far is that whenever I'm unhappy about a situation, I have to take action and do something about it. I have to leave safe harbor and go out into the sea. And even though I still don't like that feeling so much of being lost, I've learned to reinterpret it, to give it the meaning of exploring all the possibilities of checking out the different islands that there are. And on this journey, I'm doing it now with inspiring fellow travelers, which help me to discover what my islands might look like. So the past 2 years on my journey, which was from Zurich, Switzerland, to Buenos Aires, Argentina, and now to Barcelona, I have found out that for me, purpose is more important than prestige. I am also very aware of the privilege that I have to be able to take that journey and to be supported by my friends and family. But what I know for sure is that I have never regretted that step of embarking on the journey. So now we know each other for about 10 minutes. And I'd like to ask you one last question before I leave. Are you using your uncertain amount of time that you have on this earth to do something that makes your soul shine?